This will be kind of a spoon-fed walkthrough of how to use the rustdllproxy tool to generate proxy DLLs and then use them. For this video, I've made a quick example here. Basically, we have a exe called useDLL, which uses dlltest.dll to do a few functions here. You open it up, see it executes all these functions, and then shows the return value. So we're going to hook into DLL test and change the functions. So first, I navigated to the directory that this is kept at. You don't have to do that, but it makes it easier for me. Run the command. We're hooking into dlltest.dll. We're going to make the crate right here, and we're going to name it test hook. Now that we open that up, we can take a look at the scaffolding in here. You'll notice that all the functions that were defined in DLL test are defined here. You can see the exports list in the definition file. Now, in order to hook a function, we can use one of these three macros: pre-hook, post-hook, or a full hook. Let's pre-hook do multi-add. So first, we're going to have to change this to a a pre-hook of dlltest.dll, and then our function that we're hooking is do multi-add. Then before we can write, we must also define the signature of what we're hooking. This is currently a small limitation. There are ways to hook without knowing the signature. I just haven't implemented the macro yet with a little bit of inline assembly. Once we have this, we can start writing our pre-hook. So let's write something out to the screen. And the cool thing you can do with pre-hooks is you can change the input arguments. So say you figure out exactly how this function works and you want to change some behavior with it. You can start defining the variables being passed as arguments to be mutable and then change those. So I do know this function, and I know the behavior is it multiplies A and B and then adds C, hence the name do multi-add. So let's let A equals 0, B equals 0, and then let's set like C equal 11. So this will now output 11. Let's save that. To hook, we must also go to the definition file and remove the forwarding. Save that, and we should be good. Let's hook one more just for good measure. Let's hook the get value function. If I remember correctly, that should just return a static value. So say we want to change that static value. We can use a post hook. So we'll use post hook. We're hooking into dlltest.dll. And we're hooking get value. Now I know this function has no arguments, but it does return an I32. Now when you're post hooking, you're given a more advanced option, assuming that your function returns something, where you can use the magic ret variable to change that value. Ret is defined as mutable by the macros, so don't worry about changing it. So now instead of displaying 120, we're going to display 1000 once we run this. Save that, in just as before, we're changing get value. So let's go to get value and remove the forwarding behavior. Now we should be all good to build. Cargo build release. It's going to do some debug stuff, show you the token stream. I'll remove that at some point. Target x8664. Let's move that DLL into here. Now, as the README says, we're going to append an underscore into DLL test. And then to make this easier, we're just going to rename this to DLL test so that our exe is using this as the original DLL. Now, when we run this, we can see it works. When we do multi-add, this is printed before execution. The prehook runs, and then the return value is now 11, meaning that our arguments have been changed. And then get value also is now outputting 1000.